I was sitting on the edge of my velvet armchair, the soft morning light spilling through the half-open blinds, brushing against my silk blouse. My phone buzzed again on the marble table beside me, insistent, almost accusing. I knew who it was, my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Not since everything blew up. Dad's hospital bills had piled up faster than I could count. I'd opened a credit card in secret to cover them. Late nights spent calculating every expense, every interest rate, every small risk, and I'd done it all silently. I'd wanted to help. I still did. But the moment I glanced at the notification, my stomach sank. The message wasn't about Dad. It was about her, my sister, who always had a way of making life feel heavier than it needed to be. I slid my hand along the armrest, feeling the smooth velvet beneath my fingers, the way the fabric hugged my skin, reminding me that appearances mattered. My apartment looked perfect, clean lines, elegant touches, but perfection was just a mask. And that mask was about to crack. I hesitated, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I tapped. Photos. My heart froze as I saw them. My sister, smiling, laughing, wearing the same outfits my parents claimed I could never afford. Something in me twisted. A mix of hurt, disbelief, and a familiar spark of defiance. How dare she? How could she, when I had been barely holding us all together? I sank back into the chair, gripping the armrests. I didn't know if I wanted to scream, cry, or just vanish. But deep down, I knew I'd face this. And I would face it on my terms. I remember the night it all started to fall apart. I was 17, sitting at the worn oak kitchen table, the hum of the refrigerator filling the silence, trying to explain to Mom why I couldn't just hand over the little money I'd saved from my summer job. Dad had been sick for months, and the bills were stacking higher than the piles of unopened mail on the counter. I'd begged, pleaded, even cried. "Why do you always have to make things so complicated, Sophie?" Mom snapped, her voice sharper than I expected. Her words cut deeper than any cold stare. "Your sister knows how to handle these things. You're too dramatic." I felt my hands tremble, the lump in my throat so big, I thought I might choke. My sister, Chloe, was sitting across the table, smirking like she already knew she had won. She had this way of making everything about her, of twisting situations until the world saw only her. That night, I realized no one would see me, not really. Not when I tried to step up. After they went to bed, I sat alone in my room, staring at the small silver locket my grandmother had given me the year before. "Courage isn't loud," she had whispered. "It's quiet. It's doing what you know is right, even when no one notices." I held that locket against my chest, the cool metal grounding me. That night, I decided I wouldn't let their doubt define me. I would find my own way, even if it meant doing it alone. I remember sneaking out my savings, hiding it in the hollow of a book, and researching every way I could help Dad without anyone knowing. The credit card wasn't just a number on a screen. It was my small rebellion, my act of love, my promise to myself that I would be the one who carried us when no one else would. And even as I felt the sting of rejection, the ache of being dismissed, I also felt something new, a quiet fire building inside me. A determination that maybe one day, Chloe and everyone else would finally see the strength I'd been carrying all along. The mornings were always the hardest. I'd wake before the sun, brushing my fingers over the locket my grandmother had given me, and whisper a quiet promise. "This is for you, Dad. For us." My days blurred between hospital visits, part-time jobs, and late-night research on how to make every penny count. I quickly realized that love alone wouldn't pay the bills. Skill, persistence, and cunning would. That's when I met Marcus, my mentor, by pure chance at a local cafe. He noticed me hunched over a pile of financial statements, scribbling furiously, and offered a simple question. "Why do you look like you're about to reinvent the world?" At first, I was defensive, but there was something in his tone, a mixture of curiosity and belief, that made me open up. He became my guide, patiently teaching me investment strategies, negotiation skills, and the power of financial independence. He believed in me when my own family hadn't, and that belief lit a fire I didn't know I had. The nights were long. Every apartment corner became an office, every cup of coffee a lifeline. I battled self-doubt constantly, wondering if I was stretching too far, if I would ever be enough. There were moments I wanted to give up, to crawl back into the shadows where no one could see my failures. But then I'd think of Dad's smile, the way he still tried to reassure me even as his strength faded. I couldn't stop, not now, not ever. The small victories kept me going. My first freelance client, a tiny contract for bookkeeping, felt like climbing Everest. Then came bigger projects, each one cementing the reality that I could survive and even thrive outside the family's narrow expectations. I learned to network discreetly, to wear the professional armor my wardrobe suggested without drawing too much attention to the fact that I was building an empire in secret. My apartment became a fortress of quiet triumph, books stacked like stepping stones, spreadsheets meticulously arranged, awards and recognitions hidden in drawers, waiting for the right moment. I never posted anything on social media. My family assumed I was barely scraping by, maybe working a part-time gig at best. Chloe probably laughed at my struggling life from her curated feed, unaware that every dollar she flaunted I had already anticipated, calculated, and silently matched tenfold. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was living proof that strength doesn't always announce itself. It whispers, waits, and then surprises. By the time Dad started to recover, I had established a small but growing financial cushion. I had control over our debt, a plan for the future, and a confidence that no one could take away. The locket was always there, heavy against my chest, a reminder that every sleepless night, every tiny sacrifice, had a purpose. I was ready for the moment when the world, and Chloe, would finally see me not as the struggling, obedient daughter, but as the woman who had quietly rewritten her story. The knock at the door was sharp, insistent, almost daring me to ignore it. I took a deep breath, smoothing the silk of my blouse and adjusting my blazer.
Chloe.
I knew it before I opened the door. The way she always carried herself, with that careless confidence, like the world owed her something. And there she was, smirking, flanked by Dad, who looked tired but hopeful, and Mom, whose eyes darted around the room, drinking in the subtle luxury of my apartment. "Hey, Sophie," Chloe said, voice sweet but with an edge. She stepped inside without waiting, glancing at the clean lines of my space, the soft rugs, the artwork that I'd collected in quiet triumphs over years of sacrifice. I didn't say a word. I let them take it all in. Let them notice the floor-to-ceiling bookshelves stacked with carefully curated works, the modern desk that gleamed under the soft glow of the lamp, the sleek computer monitors I'd saved months to buy. Every corner of the room whispered the story of late nights, careful planning, and relentless determination, things they had never acknowledged in me. Chloe's smirk faltered when she noticed the framed certificate on the wall, a professional accreditation she had always dismissed as too ambitious for me. Dad's hand trembled as he reached out to touch one of the awards I had hidden in a drawer. He looked at me, a mix of awe and shame clouding his features. Mom's lips pressed into a thin line, the polite mask of composure failing for the first time. "Are you serious?" Chloe asked finally, her voice tight, disbelief cracking through her usual bravado. I let a slow smile play across my face, not cruelly, but with the quiet satisfaction of someone who had endured years of being underestimated. "Yes," I said softly. "I've been serious. I've worked, saved, and invested. Every late night, every sacrifice, every moment I was told I wasn't capable, I turned it into something real." I stepped back and gestured to the room. "This isn't a display. This is my life. Every penny, every decision, every late-night struggle, it's mine. And if you look closely, you'll see I've been managing Dad's bills, keeping us afloat, and building something for the future you never even imagined I could have." Chloe's face drained of color. Her carefully maintained facade slipped, revealing raw surprise, shame, and even fear. Dad's shoulders slumped, as if a weight he hadn't realized he'd been carrying was finally lifted. Mom blinked rapidly, as if trying to process years of disbelief in seconds. I paused, letting the silence fill the space. This wasn't about humiliation. It was about truth. The truth that I had been strong all along. The truth that I had loved, fought, and endured without anyone noticing, without anyone believing. And now, finally, they were seeing me for who I truly was. And the best part? I was just getting started. The room was thick with tension, the kind that prickled at your skin and made your pulse audible in your ears. I stood in the center, calm, composed, the quiet authority I had cultivated over years radiating from me. For once, I wasn't the overlooked daughter. I was the one holding the reins. I want to be clear about something, I began, my voice steady, resonant. I've carried this family through storms no one else noticed. I've made sacrifices you can't even imagine. And now, I'm choosing how we move forward. Dad looked down, guilt etched in the lines of his face. Mom's eyes were glossy with realization. Chloe seemed to shrink a little under my gaze, the smirk she usually wore nowhere in sight. There are conditions, I continued. Not because I want to punish anyone, but because I won't repeat the same cycle. First, Dad, you rest. You follow your doctor's orders. No hiding symptoms, no stubborn pride. Your health comes first, and I won't support any act that puts you at risk. Dad nodded, relief mingling with embarrassment. Mom, I said gently but firmly, we need honesty. No more hiding bills, no more blaming me for what you could have done sooner. If you want my help, you have to communicate, truly communicate, without judgment or shame. Mom blinked, swallowed hard, then nodded, her voice catching. I can do that. I turned to Chloe, whose arms were crossed, defiance still flickering in her eyes. And you, I said, need to grow up. No more extravagance at the expense of others. You want my help? You prove you can handle responsibility. You take a job, save, and learn what it means to support your family instead of draining it. You get a taste of accountability starting now. Chloe's jaw tightened, but I could see the wheels turning in her mind. She hated it, but deep down she needed it. And all of you, I added, letting my voice soften just a fraction. Remember this. I care about every one of you, but I will not let past patterns repeat. My love doesn't come at the cost of my sanity. If we do this, we do it with respect, honesty, and effort from everyone. There was silence, heavy and full of reflection. I could see it, the shift. They were no longer standing above me. We were meeting on a new level. A level where accountability mattered, where respect was mutual, and where my years of quiet labor were finally recognized. I felt the weight lift slightly from my shoulders. I had not only revealed my success, but had turned it into leverage for true change. This was empowerment, not vengeance. Compassion, not chaos. And for the first time, I felt the balance of love and authority resting firmly in my hands. Weeks passed, and the changes slowly took root. Dad kept his appointments, letting the nurses in without protest. Mom called me regularly, honestly, sometimes just to share the small, mundane parts of her day. Chloe started working at a small marketing firm, learning the hard way that money earned carries weight. She stumbled, faltered, but each misstep came with a lesson she couldn't ignore. And every time she called, apologetic or proud of a tiny accomplishment, I felt the strange, warming pride that comes from witnessing growth you helped spark. I sat by the window one evening, the city lights shimmering like scattered stars below, my grandmother's silver locket heavy in my hand. I traced its delicate design and thought of her words, "Courage is quiet." I smiled softly. The courage hadn't been loud, it had been me, step by step, choice by choice, sacrifice by sacrifice. And now it had transformed not only my life, but theirs as well. I thought of all those nights hunched over spreadsheets, of every sleepless morning balancing bills with hope, of the credit card I had opened quietly, trembling with fear but propelled by love. Every act, every risk had led here. I hadn't just survived. I had rewritten our story. There were moments I caught myself laughing at the irony, The sister who once mocked my struggles, now asking me for advice. The parents who doubted my capability, now marveling at what I'd accomplished. But the laughter wasn't bitter. It was relief, recognition, and satisfaction wrapped into one. I had become someone who could hold both strength and warmth, authority and empathy. I glanced at the locket again, feeling its cool weight grounding me. It wasn't just a charm. It was proof of everything I had endured and everything I had become. I was no longer the quiet, dismissed daughter. I was Sophie Reynolds, a woman who had loved fiercely, fought relentlessly, and emerged whole. And as I turned off the lights and stepped away from the window, I whispered to myself, a quiet vow and a truth all at once. I will always carry my courage, and no one, not even family, will ever make me doubt its power again.